I was on a family reality show when my daughter started crying on camera, calling herself a poor, pathetic girl with no father to love her. I'm just a little girl who's never had a dad's love. I can't even imagine how much happier I'd be if the A-list actor Victor Johnson was my dad. Victor smiled. I'd love to be your dad, but would your own father agree to that? My daughter stopped crying instantly. I'll go ask him. She called her dad. Daddy, I want Victor to be my new dad. If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. Honey, isn't your dad in a coma? That very day, the top heir of the DC elite, who had been in a coma for 5 years, miraculously woke up. My name is Bella, and I'm an A-list celebrity. I've been in the business for years without a single scandal, pouring all my energy into my work. The one thing my fans are dying to know is the identity of my husband. I've been secretly married for years, but to this day, no one has managed to figure out who the mystery man is. After being away for work for 2 months, I came home to a frosty reception from my own daughter. Dottie, dressed in a beautiful princess gown, stood with her arms crossed and shot me a sidelong glance. Hey, Dylan, look who it is. What's she doing in our house? That little voice of hers was dripping with sarcasm. My son, who was reading a book, looked up, his face blank. I don't know her. You two little rascals, you don't recognize your own mother? Dottie suddenly slapped her thigh, a move that was surprisingly dramatic and cute. Oh, now I remember. Isn't this my heartless mother who abandoned her husband and children? What brings your highness back? Did you finally remember your long-lost family? My mouth twitched. A few months away, and this little one's tongue has gotten even sharper. I knew I was in the wrong, so I said guiltily, hey, now, I rushed back as soon as I wrapped things up, didn't I? My daughter glanced at me, then at her brother, speaking like a world-weary adult. See, Dylan. I told you. Work is number one in Mom's heart, not us. I quickly implemented a manual mute, covering her chattering little mouth. This little drama queen. She really knows how to spin a tale. You pipe down and listen to me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so busy with work and stayed away. I signed us up for a family reality show, and I was hoping you and your brother would do it with me so I can make it up to you both. And I promise, after this show is over, I'll stop working and stay home with you full time. Dottie pried my hand away with her chubby little fingers, looking a bit conflicted. I'll go on the show with you, but you have to say, Princess, please join me on the show. Was I going to pass up an easy out like that? I immediately complied. Princess, please join your mother on the show. Dottie's little face flushed as she mumbled, okay, I'll do it then. I turned to my son, but he refused. Mom, I don't want to be on TV. Just let Dottie go with you. I folded my hands like an obedient kitten. Okay, sweetie. After my husband's accident, his grandfather was terrified he'd never wake up. As a contingency, he had me do IVF, which is how I had the twins. Even though Dylan is only a few minutes older than Dottie, he's incredibly mature. Grandpa Cecil is already grooming him to be the next heir, so he's always been a bit of an old soul. In the world of DC's high society, I was the classic case of a mother whose status came from her son. The Sweetheart Project was a reality show that followed families 24/7, live streaming everything from maximum drama. On the first day, the film crew came to our house to take us to the airport. In the terminal lounge, I spotted the A-list actor, Victor Johnson. Victor came from a wealthy family but had no interest in business, so he went into entertainment. With his incredible acting skills and off-the-charts good looks, he'd won over countless fans and had a sterling reputation. We had recently starred in a hit drama together, and fans were shipping our characters so hard they'd even created a dedicated shipping hashtag. Seeing us on screen together again, this time on a family show, sent the internet into a frenzy. The live comments exploded. OMG, 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 are my faves on screen together again? On a family show? Aw. All you fellow shippers, our time has come. I can't believe they're on a show like this together. I hereby declare this a holiday for our fandom. P.S. We only ship the characters, not the actors. I looked at Victor, confused. He wasn't on the official guest list. The director with us explained, Victor is our special guest dad for the season. I nodded slightly. Oh, I see. Just then, Dottie piped up, Mom, I know him. He's that famous actor. You two are a TV couple. Victor smiled. Sounds like you keep a close eye on your mom online, sweetie. Dottie blushed and nodded. Her beautiful eyes gazed up at Victor, and then a thought seemed to strike her. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, Mom, I have a half-baked idea. I think he could be my dad. I froze for a second, my eye twitching. If you know it's half-baked, then don't bake it. The next moment, my daughter's lip trembled, and she transformed into a tiny Meryl Streep. You just don't understand me, Mom. You know I'm a little girl who's never had a father's love. I've always dreamed of having a dad to be there for me and spoil me. She put on her most pitiful face, her chubby, porcelain cheeks puffed out, her big eyes glistening with unshed tears. Clutching the hem of her dress, she continued, I can't even imagine how much happier I'd be if Victor was my dad. Seriously? You're putting on a show again? Honey, listen to your mother. When you grow up, you're going straight to Hollywood. That Oscar is yours for the taking. Victor chuckled softly. I'd be happy to be your dad, but would your own father be okay with that? I froze again. Dude, seriously? The last time you confessed your feelings to me, I made it crystal clear that we weren't a match and that I was married. What are you trying to pull here? Dottie's tears vanished. I'll go ask my dad right now. My eyes widened. Sweetheart, what in the world are you talking about? I watched as she took out her smartwatch and dialed the butler's number. Mr. Johnson, could you please put the phone next to my dad's ear? I want to say something to him. Of course, little miss. Then, I heard my daughter say into her watch, Daddy, I want Victor to be my new dad. If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. Honey, isn't your dad in a coma? Asking him to speak is a bit much, don't you think? Dottie pressed on, Dad, since you're not saying anything, I'll assume you agree? I snatched the watch and ended the call, pointing a finger at her. Agree to what? Your dad can't talk, so stop putting him on the spot like this. Just then, the director's eyes lit up. What do you mean, Dottie's dad can't talk? Without thinking, my daughter blurted out, because my dad's in a co. I moved like lightning, clamping my hand over her mouth. But it was too late. Everyone had heard, and they were all stunned. The livestream chat erupted. Wait. Bella's husband is in a coma? So that's why she never went public with her husband. He's in a coma. The most shocking thing today wasn't Victor being on the show, or my ship being on screen together, but that Bella's husband is in a coma. So the one person the internet sleuths could never identify was in a coma the whole time. The day before filming, I had specifically told Dottie not to mention her father's condition on the show. I didn't expect her to drop that bomb as soon as we went live. If I knew anything, this news would be trending online in minutes. The atmosphere on set became tense. Just then, the director's phone rang. After he hung up, he looked at us grimly. I'm very sorry, but one of our other families was in a car accident on their way to the airport and has been hospitalized. The executive producer has decided to temporarily suspend filming. With the show on hold, the production team drove us back to our villa. The moment I stepped out of the car, my son called. His voice was trembling with excitement and joy. Mom, Dad's awake. I stood there for a few seconds, sure I had misheard him. Mom, you heard me right. Dad really woke up. For the show, Dottie and I were staying at an outside villa while Dylan was at the old family estate. After hearing that Julian had woken up, Dottie and I rushed straight to the estate. The Cecil family was legendary in DC. Their wealth was immense, their roots ran deep, they were true old money. Julian Cecil was the family heir, a golden boy blessed by fortune. He was the kind of man who could command thunderstorms yet maintain the calm of a still lake, the true power behind the Cecil Corporation. Not only that, but he was blessed with a face unlike any other, sharp, defined features, exuding a cool, noble air. On the way to the estate, I checked the news online. Sure enough, my daughter's live stream bombshell about her dad being in a coma was the #1 trending topic. My agent called, telling me this was going to be a PR nightmare. After all, my own daughter had said it on a live broadcast. I told her to just let it ride out. When we arrived at the estate, Grandpa Cecil, my son, and a few other relatives were waiting in the courtyard. Julian's parents had passed away when he was young, and Grandpa Cecil had raised him and his sister by himself. When Julian's accident left him in a coma 5 years ago, the old man's hair turned white overnight. Now, hearing that Julian was awake, his eyes were red, filled with an undisguisable excitement. Julian just woke up. The doctors are examining him now. We'll go in after they're finished. I nodded slightly. Okay. When the doctor came out, he was ecstatic. It's a miracle. Although his vitals are still a bit unstable, his recovery over the past few years has been remarkably good. Let the patient rest for now. We'll run more detailed tests tomorrow. Grandpa Cecil sent the other relatives home and led the kids and me into the room. Walking inside, I saw Julian leaning against the headboard of the large bed in the center of the room. Over the years, Grandpa Cecil had spent tens of millions on equipment to maintain Julian's vital signs and health, and he'd hired top-tier private nurses to care for him. Aside from a pale, slightly sickly look on his stunningly handsome face, he looked no different from a healthy person. I discreetly glanced at him, only to find his gaze meeting mine. For a moment, I didn't know how to react. After all, I was the wife Grandpa Cecil had found for him after he fell into a coma. And I had given him 2 children. Julian's face was calm as he softly said, "Grandpa. He's awake, he's really awake." Grandpa Cecil's eyes instantly welled up, overwhelmed with emotion. Grandpa Cecil sat down in a chair by the bed and began to tell Julian about everything that had happened since his accident, how he had been at his wits' end, tried every possible solution, and finally, as a last resort, found him a wife and used medical technology for her to conceive his children. At this point, he turned to me and the kids, paused for a moment, and then said, word by word, "Bella is a good kid. She gave you fraternal twins. Even though it was without your consent, she's been wonderful to you and the children. I've seen it all with my own eyes. For her to marry you under those circumstances was a huge step. It wasn't easy. Now that you're awake, I hope you two can get along. Let her stay where she is, and you walk the rest of the way to her." Julian looked up at me, his dark eyes filled with a deep, unreadable emotion. He nodded slightly, his voice low. "Okay." Grandpa Cecil was thrilled. "I knew you'd agree. But you're not to bully her, you hear me?" "I know, Grandpa." Grandpa Cecil was very pleased with Julian's attitude. Finally at ease, he reminded him to get some rest. As he was leaving, he handed Julian his phone and said meaningfully, "This is your phone. I'm the only one who's looked at it." Julian gave me a strange look, nodded, and said nothing. Just then, Dottie, standing beside me, asked Julian, "Daddy, how did you wake up?" Julian's expression darkened as if he'd remembered something. I was angered awake. "That was you who called me earlier, wasn't it? Come on, repeat what you said on the phone to my face." Without thinking, I blurted out, "You could hear things from the outside world while you were in a coma?" Julian nodded. "The whole time, I could sense the world around me and hear everything." Dottie's eyes flew open, her little face a mask of shock. "Wow, you must have a really bad temper to get so mad you just woke yourself up." Julian's mouth twitched, and his pale face slowly darkened. Dylan looked at his sister, confused. "Dottie, what did you say to Dad on the phone?" So, Dottie repeated what she'd said on the call. "Dad, I want Victor to be my new dad. If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes." Without missing a beat, Julian replied firmly. Well, I'm telling you now, I do not agree. Dottie's tiny body flinched, and she immediately hid behind me. Dylan looked completely exasperated. Calling Dad when he's in a coma and taking advantage of the fact he can't talk. Dottie, how could you be so rude? My mouth twitched. I had to admit, my son had a way with words. Then Dottie mumbled weakly, but I made him so mad he woke up, didn't I? I should get some credit for that, even if it wasn't on purpose. 3 faces of utter confusion. Dottie's dark eyes darted around. She walked over to the bed and said, like a little adult, Dad, since I'm the one who woke you up, let's just call it even and let this whole thing go. What do you say? Julian replied calmly, fine. And just like that, with her clever little arguments, the matter was closed. Julian said he'd been asleep for a long time and didn't feel like resting anymore. The 2 kids sat by his bed, chatting with him and sharing funny stories from preschool. Julian listened gently as they described everything in vivid detail, responding to every story. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious. At dinner, the butler brought a wheelchair for Julian and helped him into it. I pushed him to the dining room. My son, ever the good boy, offered to feed his father. Seeing this, Dottie chimed in, let me feed him. I want to feed Daddy. I said softly, you 2 eat your own dinner. Mommy will feed Daddy. Dylan and Dottie nodded. Okay. I turned to Julian and said, I'll feed you. Just tell me what you want, and I'll get it for you. Julian nodded slightly. Thank you for the trouble. After dinner, I was lost in thought. Before Julian woke up, I had always slept in the same room with him to make it easier to care for him, give him massages, and tend to his needs. Now that he was awake, should we maybe sleep separately for a while? So, I thought about it and said to my daughter, Dottie, now that Daddy's awake, can Mommy sleep in your room with you tonight? Dottie paused, blinking her big, innocent eyes. Why does Mommy have to sleep with me just because Daddy woke up? I explained, because before, Mommy was sleeping there to take care of Daddy. Now that he's awake, he doesn't need me to, and he might not be used to having me sleep next to him. Just then, Dylan spoke up. But Dad hasn't fully recovered yet. He still needs you to take care of him. Besides, aren't moms and dads supposed to sleep together? I was momentarily stunned. I honestly hadn't thought of that. I turned to look at Julian, and our eyes met. He raised an eyebrow, the corners of his eyes lifting slightly, as if they held little hooks. My breath caught, and I subconsciously clenched my fists. Julian's lips curved into a slight smile, his voice low and deep. Your son is right. We're husband and wife, we shouldn't be sleeping apart. We need to spend more time together. Besides, I still need you right now. I nodded slightly, a strange feeling bubbling up inside me. Okay, then. After playing with the kids for a while, I tucked them in and went back to our room. Julian was sitting up in bed, looking at his phone. When he saw me come in, he put it down. Are the kids asleep? I nodded. Yes. Do you need me to help you with your bath now? Julian paused, a faint smile playing on his lips. Mrs. Cecil, I know you used to help me bathe when I was unconscious, but now that I'm awake. If you help me now, I might get shy. I couldn't help but laugh. Anyone who can say that is definitely not the shy type. Julian nodded, his voice low and rich. No, I would be. All right then. Should I call Mr. Johnson to help you? Mr. Johnson already came by and helped me earlier. I nodded slightly. Okay, I'm going to get ready for bed then. Half an hour later, I came out in my pajamas. I slipped off my shoes and got into bed. I saw Julian holding his phone, watching clips from the reality show Dottie and I had filmed that day. The way he looks at you isn't exactly innocent. He probably likes you. It took me a second to realize he was talking about Victor. You're right. He confessed to me once. Julian turned his head to look at me, his clear, dark eyes reflecting flecks of light. He said simply, and? I blinked, replying naturally, and what? I turned him down, of course. Julian's eyes seemed to curve into a smile as he put his phone down. I'm turning off the lights, then? Okay. The room plunged into darkness. Before, when he was in a coma, I had gotten used to sleeping next to him without a second thought. Now, with him lying beside me, fully conscious, I felt a little awkward. My breathing grew uneven, and my heart beat a little faster. The room was silent except for the sound of our breathing. After a while, he suddenly spoke. You're probably not going to fall asleep like this. How do you know? When I was unconscious, I could sense that you like to sleep on your side, and you'd often rest your leg on me. I figured you must like to hug a pillow or blanket when you sleep. Lying flat on your back like this, you probably can't get comfortable. After hearing his explanation, I turned on my side to face him and blurted out, were you really in a coma? It's like you saw everything with your own eyes. You weren't faking it this whole time, were you? He was silent for 2 seconds before saying dryly, fake being in a coma for 5 years? Am I insane? I fell silent. Okay, maybe I was the insane one for even asking that. After the silence, I drifted off to sleep without realizing it. The next morning, after breakfast, I left the kids at home and took Julian to the hospital for a checkup. Because we had arranged everything in advance, a dedicated physician was waiting for us at the hospital. He helped push the wheelchair and guided us to various departments for all the tests. By the time we were done, it was noon, so we found a restaurant nearby for lunch. In the afternoon, we went back to the hospital to get the results. Then we headed home. Since Julian had just woken up, the full day of activity was exhausting for him. He was drowsy in the car on the way back. When we got home, the butler carried him to his bed, and he went straight to sleep. I went to find the kids, only to discover them hiding in their room, crying. Their little faces were streaked with tears, and their eyes were red and swollen. They must have been crying for a while. My heart ached. I hugged them and asked gently, what happened? Did you two have a fight? They both shook their heads, pouting, but didn't say a word. Then what is it? My son looked up, his eyes welling with tears. Mom, now that Dad's awake, is he going to divorce you and get rid of us? My heart sank. I knew immediately someone must have said something to them. Did someone come over and talk to you? My son said, it was Aunt Vivian. She said you're a gold digger who only married Dad and had us for the money. Of course, it was her. Julian's sister, Vivian Cecil. Speaking of Vivian brings us to Stella. Vivian and Stella were extremely close. In her eyes, Stella was the only person worthy of being her sister-in-law. Everyone thought Stella and Julian were a perfect match, a couple made in heaven. After Stella went abroad, Julian acted like a man nursing a broken heart. Everyone assumed it was because Stella had left, cementing her status as the one that got away. After Julian's accident, Vivian was vehemently against me marrying her brother, treating me with nothing but contempt. But I never imagined she would say such things to 2 small children. Just then, Dottie said through her sobs, she also said we were born without Dad's permission, so we're not even really his children. As she spoke, she started crying even harder. Dylan continued, she also said Dad doesn't like you or us, and that soon he's going to kick us out of the house, and we'll become orphans. Mom, is it true? Were my sister and I not supposed to be born? Tears filled both their eyes, as if they'd been dealt a devastating blow. My heart ached for them, and a fire of rage ignited in my chest. I hugged them tightly, my voice trembling but gentle. No, that's not true. Don't listen to her nonsense. You are my precious babies. Everything she said is a lie. Don't you believe it? It took a while to console them, but they finally stopped crying and calmed down. Actually, this isn't the first time she said things like that to us, Dylan said suddenly, his words reigniting the fury in my chest. She told us if we ever dared to tell you or great-grandpa, she'd have Dad throw us all out as soon as he woke up. My eyes hardened. I pulled out my phone and dialed Grandpa Cecil's number. 10 minutes later, I took the children to his study. Grandpa Cecil was sitting in his chair, with Vivian and a few servants standing nearby. When he saw us, he asked, "Bella, my dear, you woke me from my nap and had me summon Vivian. What's going on?" Just then, Vivian's voice cut in. "Oh, so it was Bella who had me called over?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with undisguised arrogance and scorn. "What do you want?" I didn't say a word. I had my son and daughter stand next to Grandpa Cecil. Then I walked right up to Vivian and, without any warning, slapped her across the face. Slap. The sound was crisp and loud. The force of it snapped her head to the side. Everyone was stunned. What is the meaning of this? I didn't answer. I just swung again, landing another slap. Vivian stared at me in disbelief, her hands flying to her face, her voice shrill. "Bella, how dare you hit me?" Vivian was seething. "Bella, have you lost your mind?" Grandpa Cecil's face was grim as he asked me in a cold voice, "What is going on?" I turned to my children. "Dylan, Dottie, tell your great-grandpa everything you just told me, word for word." The children did as they were told, and with every word, Grandpa Cecil's expression grew darker. Vivian started to panic. When the children repeated the line, Aunt Vivian said we weren't even supposed to be born, Grandpa Cecil slammed his hand on the desk, making everyone jump. I didn't flinch. I stared straight at Vivian, speaking slowly and clearly. "Fine. In front of Grandpa, I'll admit it. I took his $2 million to marry Julian. But what about you, Vivian? Do you dare repeat what you said to these children in front of him? I always knew you hated me, but I never realized you'd been hurting my children, messing with their mental health. Vivian, you are truly a vicious person." Grandpa Cecil's brow was furrowed with rage. He slammed his hand down again. "Vivian Cecil, kneel." Vivian trembled, and her legs gave out, sending her to her knees. The housekeeper who had watched Vivian grow up, spoke up. "Miss Vivian, you were in the wrong here. Apologize to Mrs. Cecil." Before Grandpa Cecil or Vivian could say another word, I cut in coldly. "There's no need for an apology. I won't forgive her. Tomorrow, I'm taking the children to see a child psychologist, and if there are any issues, I will not let this go." I walked over to Grandpa Cecil, took a deep breath, and said, "Grandpa, I'll leave this for you to handle. The children are very upset right now. I'm going to take them to our villa at Cecil Vista to stay for a while. Please take care of Julian." With that, I took the children and left. Grandpa Cecil didn't stop me. I've been by my children's side these past few years. Even when I had to work, I was never away from them for long. Even when filming took months, I would fly back frequently. But I never knew Vivian was hurting them, poisoning their minds with these ideas. My heart felt like it had been shattered. Guilt, pain, and an overwhelming sense of frustration churned inside me, making me sick. I hugged my children, and tears started to fall. I choked out, "I'm so sorry, babies. It's Mommy's fault. I had no idea your aunt was saying these things to you." Seeing me cry, the two of them panicked, reaching out their tiny hands to wipe away my tears. Their little voices were full of comfort. "Don't cry, Mommy. It's not your fault." Dylan said, "Mom, we're okay." Even though Aunt Vivian said those things, Great-Grandpa always told us we're the best kids in the world. Dottie added, "Yeah, we don't believe her anyway. We just couldn't hold it in this time. Please don't be sad, Mommy." I nodded. "Okay, Mommy won't cry. You two are my little angels." I took the kids out to play for the rest of the afternoon, and we didn't return to the Cecil Vista villa until evening. I never expected that just as we were finishing dinner, Julian would show up. "Is there any food left for me?" I froze for a second, then blurted out, "What are you doing here?" Julian sat in his wheelchair, his voice low. Something this big happened. Of course I had to come. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. But then I heard him say, I wake up from a nap to find my wife and kids have run away from home and left me behind. What was I supposed to do? I had Mr. Johnson bring me over. Huh? I looked up at him, stunned. Julian's dark eyes held a deep, unreadable light. His thin lips moved, and he said clearly, "You did the right thing." Then his tone shifted. "But leaving me behind was not right." I played along. "So I should have brought you with me?" A faint smile touched Julian's lips as he said, completely serious, "Yes. Next time, remember to bring me along. I'll handle the rough stuff." "Me, deal." Just then, Dylan spoke up. "Dad came to find us. Does that mean he doesn't dislike us?" Julian looked at the two children with a serious expression. "Even though I just woke up from a long sleep, I don't dislike you. In fact, I like you both very much." The children's faces immediately broke into wide smiles, showing off their little teeth. Yay! We're not kids with no daddy to love us. Dottie blinked her big, beautiful eyes and asked Julian, "What about mommy? Does daddy like mommy?" Julian's gaze fell on me again, and this time, his dark eyes seemed to hold a hint of something more private. "Daddy likes mommy, too." His voice was clear and pleasant, like a cool stream washing over my heart. I knew he was just saying it for the kids, but I wanted so badly to believe it was true. Because I've had a secret crush on Julian Cecil for years. The first day of my freshman year of college, a young girl lost her tuition money and sat by a river, sobbing her heart out. It was the money her terminally ill mother had saved by foregoing her own treatment. Her mother was gone, and now the money was gone too. Overwhelmed, she contemplated ending her life. But then, a kind, gentle boy appeared. He helped her find the money, but she could tell it wasn't the same cash she had lost. When she called him out on his lie, he said softly, "Just consider it a loan. You can pay me back when you have the money." So, the girl wrote him an IOU. That was how I first met Julian. The next time we met was on campus. I discovered he was the most popular guy in school, a person who shone as brightly as the sun. Later, I made a friend who was part of his circle. At her birthday party, I saw Julian for the third time. Because of my friend, I started going to their parties more often, and I saw him more frequently. I don't know when it started, but I began to subconsciously look for him, to wonder if he would be there. Before I knew it, I had secretly fallen for him. I just watched him from a distance, quietly. One time, my friend joked that a lot of girls had crushes on Julian and asked if I liked him too. I wasn't part of their world. I knew the chasm between us. I was silent for a few seconds before I slowly said, "No, I don't." My friend said I was the exception. But she didn't know I was also a liar. I had lied. Back then, people often joked about Julian and Stella, saying they were a perfect couple. They would both just smile and say nothing. Then Stella went abroad, and Julian fell into a slump, looking for all the world like a man who'd been dumped. Everyone assumed it was because of Stella, and they tacitly accepted her as the one that got away. Sometime after that, Julian also went abroad. The book titled Secret Crush was closed then and there, hidden away in the deepest corner of my heart. Later, I got into the entertainment industry and, by chance, ran into him again. When I got home, I found myself staring at his contact on my phone. Have you ever had that experience where you try to tap on someone's profile picture to see their feed, but you accidentally hit the poke button instead? The next second, he sent back a question mark. I typed back an explanation, "I was trying to look at your social feed and accidentally poked you." He replied, "Why were you looking at my feed?" Thinking he probably didn't know who I was, or had forgotten me, I got a little bold. I sent back, "To see if you had any pictures, to see if you'd make a good boyfriend. Turns out you have nothing on your feed." To my surprise, a minute later, he sent a new message. "Just posted one. You can look now." I clicked on his profile, and sure enough, there was a photo posted 1 minute ago. He looked just like the boy from my memories, only now with a quieter, more reserved aura. Me, just saw it. You're handsome. Definitely boyfriend material. He replied, so. Am I supposed to say something now? Me, you're supposed to say, I'd love to be your boyfriend. I thought he'd ignore it, or refuse, but instead. Okay. I'd love to be your boyfriend. So, I sent one more message. Alright, you're my boyfriend now. But I'm a lady, so we'll start by dating online. When the time is right, we can meet in person. He, okay. That's when I was sure of it. He had no idea who I was. And from that day on, we started a 2-year online relationship. It continued until his accident. Then, out of the blue, Grandpa Cecil found me and offered me $2 million to marry his grandson. I said yes. He still doesn't know that I'm the person he dated online for 2 years. Snapping back to the present, I got a bowl and chopsticks for Julian. After dinner, I made an appointment with a child psychologist. The next day, I called the kids' preschool to let their teacher know they'd be absent. Julian offered to come with us to the appointment, so after breakfast, the 4 of us headed out. After a consultation and some tests, the psychologist concluded that the children's mental health was fine, though they did show some signs of insecurity. I let out a silent sigh of relief, making a mental note to talk with Julian about how we could give the kids a stronger sense of security. After we left the psychologist's office, I remembered how the kids had been begging to go to the zoo to see the elephants. I mentioned the idea to Julian. His long eyelashes drooped, and he looked a little dejected. His voice was softer as he asked, "You're not taking me?" I paused for a second, then said gently, "You want to come?" The corners of Julian's lips lifted, and his eyes seemed to brighten. Yes. At the zoo, the kids were ecstatic, seeing so many animals they'd only ever seen in books. They were constantly pointing, bouncing from one enclosure to the next. They stared at the unfamiliar animals with a mix of shock and wonder. Julian and I watched them with smiles on our faces, occasionally answering their questions about the animals. To avoid any unwanted attention, I made sure they both wore masks. Julian had a bodyguard pushing his wheelchair. After half a day of running around, the kids started to get tired, their bouncing replaced by dragging feet. Dottie ran over to Julian and said, "Daddy, I'm so tired. Can I sit in your wheelchair for a little bit?" My mouth twitched. This little schemer was after her dad's wheelchair. Julian's eyelid twitched. He said slowly, "Dottie, let me ask you something. What kind of person needs to sit in a wheelchair?" Dottie tilted her head, thought for a moment, and blurted out, "Someone who can't walk, of course." "Julian, so if I give you the wheelchair, what do I do?" Dottie's big, dark eyes blinked. "Can't you just lie on the ground for a little while?" Pfft. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Julian's mouth twitched as he shot me a look. "This daughter of yours is a real piece of work." Dylan, ever the responsible one, told his sister, "Dottie, stop messing around. If you're tired, we can go sit on that bench over there." I smiled and added, "But she's my piece of work. She keeps me on my toes." When we got home, the butler from the main estate came over to tell me how Vivian had been punished. Grandpa Cecil had used the family disciplinary rod and given Vivian 20 lashes. After 10, she couldn't take it anymore and fainted. She was sent to the hospital. But Grandpa Cecil had made it clear that she would receive the remaining 10 lashes as soon as she recovered. On top of that, he had ordered her to kneel in the ancestral hall. I said nothing. Grandpa Cecil had raised both Vivian and my children. He loved them all. For him, this was a severe punishment. The butler then asked about the results of the kids' psychological evaluation, and I told him everything so Grandpa Cecil could rest easy. The kids went back to preschool. The doctor said Julian's muscles were in good condition and that he should try to stand and walk on his own more often. As it happened, Julian was tired of the wheelchair anyway, so I started helping him practice. I helped him to his feet, and he used me for support as he stood up. He's 6'3" and I'm 5'7". The moment he stood, I felt like a human crutch. The touch of our palms sent a little jolt through me, and my heart fluttered. Julian stood for a moment, getting used to the sensation, before he tried to take a step. After 5 years in a coma, his body couldn't just bounce back. He only managed to shuffle his foot forward a tiny bit. He frowned in frustration. "Don't rush it," I said, trying to comfort him. "Take it slow." Julian nodded, gripping my hand tightly. He gathered his strength and tried again. My nerves were on edge, and I watched him carefully, terrified he would fall. But of course, the thing I feared most happened. After a few more steps, he lost his balance and pitched forward. Because of our height difference and my lack of strength, even though I reacted quickly and wrapped my arms around his waist, I went down with him. He landed on top of me. I hit the ground hard, my back taking the brunt of the impact. I saw stars. Oof. Just then, Dylan and Dottie came home from school and walked in on the scene. The two of them stood frozen in the doorway, their little faces a picture of shock. Dylan's little man voice broke the silence. "Mom? Dad? Are you guys playing Jenga? Human Jenga? Seriously?" Julian rolled off me, his voice laced with concern. "Are you okay? Did you get hurt?" I sat up, wincing. "I'm fine. It doesn't hurt too much." The kids finally snapped out of it and rushed over to help me up. A servant came over and helped Julian get back on his feet. Over the next few days, Julian practiced walking constantly. At first, he needed me to support him, and we moved in short bursts. Gradually, he no longer needed my help, and soon, his steps became smoother and more confident. Now, he can practically sprint. He's back to his old self. Half a month later, Julian's medical checkup came back normal, and he officially took over the company again. The news of his recovery spread like wildfire and shot to the top of the trending topics online. DC Elite Air wakes up after 5-year coma. The comments section was a war zone. They all said he'd never wake up, but after 5 years, he's back. It's a medical miracle. I'm a med student, and I have great news for everyone. My husband, who was in a coma for 5 years, has finally woken up. Next step, having my babies. Get lost, that's my husband. You all call him husband? I'm skipping straight to life partner. Saving myself 40 years of trouble. Drools. But just then, a gossip blogger dropped a bombshell that blew up the internet. Got some major tea for you all. 5 years ago, the celebrity Bella married the DC Elite Air Julian Cecil for $2 million while he was in a coma. She even had twins for him. Back then, she was just a C-list actress with no clout. In just 5 years of being married into a powerful family, she's become an A-list superstar. You do the math. The post went viral, and hordes of curious onlookers and my own fans flooded the comments. The public was skeptical, but my fans were furious and went on the attack. Are you brain dead? Who makes up such a vicious rumor? I want to take a rake to your face. How dare you make up such lies? I'm tagging Bella's team right now to get you sued into oblivion. Even as a casual observer, this seems pretty far-fetched. Bella has built her career on talent and has never had any negative press. Just a passerby, but it feels like you're just trying to ride the coattails of the DCRS recovery. This story is just too unbelievable. Just as everyone was dismissing the blogger's claims, Vivian Cecil posted a simple sentence on her own social media. Bella took $2 million from my grandfather to marry my brother. The plot twist stunned everyone and left my fans reeling. Whoa. The DCRS' own sister confirmed it. It must be true. Bella's fans must be losing their minds. They were waiting for a denial and got a confirmation from Julian's sister instead. It dawned on me then. Vivian must have leaked the story to the blogger, and when they didn't believe her, she decided to confirm it herself. As the scandal exploded, Vivian called me. Bella, have you seen how they're tearing you apart online? I'm just calling to let you know that Stella is back in the country. I'm going to make sure she and my brother both know you're nothing but a woman who sold herself for $2 million. Go ahead, tattle to Grandpa. And let me tell you, my brother is going to divorce you for Stella. Stella was back. Hearing that name sent a jolt of anxiety through me. As soon as I hung up, Julian called. His voice was low and steady. Have you been online? I have. He was silent for a moment. Seen the trending topics? I have. The next thing I heard was, stop looking. I'm having my team take them down. I'll deal with Vivian, too. I was stunned for a second. You know it was her? Julian chuckled softly. Bella, I'm not an idiot. I asked again, so you don't think I married you for the money? His tone was resolute. You didn't. My heart skipped a beat. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. It was like a stone had been thrown into a still lake, sending ripples out in every direction. Julian continued, are you at home? Yes. Wait 15 minutes for me. I'm coming home. There's something I want to tell you in person. Okay. After I hung up, I had a strange feeling that something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't until I saw Julian walk through the door that it hit me. I pointed at him, shocked. You know it's me, don't you? He knew I was his online girlfriend. In all the time he'd been awake, he'd never asked for my number or to connect on any apps. But when we were dating online, he had my phone number. Even if he didn't know it was me before, seeing my number would have made it obvious. So, when he said he had something to tell me in person, this had to be it. But what he said next completely blindsided me. He smiled. Actually, I've always known it was you. I was just waiting to see when you'd tell me. My eyes widened, and I blurted out, you've always known? He nodded, his clear, dark eyes shining with flecks of light. I'm not the type of person to date someone online. Unless I already liked that person to begin with. My brain short-circuited for a second. I was sure I'd misheard him. You dated me online because you already liked me? Julian, yes. This was a lot to take in. Hold on, let me get this straight. You liked me, so you agreed to date me online. But I was the one who suggested it. Finally, I came to a conclusion. So you had a crush on me before that? Julian admitted it again. I've had a crush on you since college. When I heard you say you didn't like me, I was crushed, so I decided to go abroad. Wait, you went abroad because Stella left, didn't you? Julian shook his head and took my hand. It was because I overheard you talking to your friend, saying you didn't like me. That's why Julian continued, Grandpa found out because he looked through my phone and saw that I had a crush on you, and that we were dating online. That's why he approached you and asked if you would marry me. It all clicked into place. So that's how it was. And here I was, thinking the world worked in wonderfully coincidental ways. The feeling of discovering that the person you've had a crush on for years has also been crushing on you. It felt like a dream, too good to be true. When it finally sank in that this was real, the sound of my own heart was pounding in my ears. I decided it was time to confess my own secret. I met his gaze and said his name. Julian Cecil. I'm here. I spoke each word clearly. The truth is, I've had a crush on you for years, too. When you heard me say, I don't like you, it was a lie. A smile spread across Julian's face, and his dark, handsome features lit up. So, this was a mutual crush, and we both found our way to each other? I nodded. Yes. The next second, we were wrapped in a tight embrace. That night, a photo from my college days appeared on Julian Cecil's official social media account, with the caption, I'm the luckiest man in the world. The girl I've had a crush on for years married me. I posted a candid photo of him I had secretly taken back then, with my own caption. It was a mutual crush that finally came true.